Yes. Okay, so we'll get started. Welcome to our Women of Color in the Workplace. My name is Maybelline Fletchich. I'm the Chief Diversity Officer of Women of Color. I do other things, among many things, and I want to make sure Julene Allen gets to speak. She is our wonderful CEO. How about you tell us a little bit, Julene? Want to share a little bit about yourself?
Well, I wasn't prepared to say much of anything this evening, but I am Julie Allen. I am CEO and founder of Women of Color in the Workplace. For those who are not familiar, we are a research and education company. We provide education tools for women of color to help them advocate for themselves in the workplace. And we also help companies to further their diversity, equity, and inclusion mission. Over the past 5 or 6 years, I led a program called Lean In Women of Color, which is affiliated with the Sheryl Sandberg and Dave Goldberg Family Foundation. And I spent the last several years exploring, just really learning what it would look like for women of color to learn how to negotiate, basically advocate for themselves at work. Um, and so we built a bunch of tools and resources over the years. And so out of that particular organization, Women of Color in the Workplace was born.
There you go. And we did meet and Lean In. That's one of the networks that we started before, and that's how Julene is my new partner and sister also in the company. So we do many things. We are also we love painting. So oil painting is my material medium that I do. I believe Julene does that, and she has her own studio that she's building up. So we are definitely artists, not just women of color. So we have a variety of hobbies. We're busy empowering women from all sides. So we'll move on to the actual book. It's all about our first VP, women of color, a Southeast African American descent, Kamala Harris. I mean, you could not be happier to at least have one that our young children can see as a role model. So this is The Truths We Hold, An American Journey. And I hope that you got the opportunity to read it. It was definitely a quick read. I could not stop reading till the end. I just didn't have enough time to read it all in one night. But I hope that you had a great experience reading the story, and hopefully it clarified some of the myths that were being spread out there. It made more sense for me after I finished reading her book. So that's part of our topic today. And today's agenda, we want to make sure we're respectful of your time, like I said, but here's the goal: share lessons learned. I do have questions on the next slide. The impact of this book for you. What are some takeaways? And I absolutely want to thank you for attending and participating in the conversation. We want everyone sharing stories and what you think. Some books to read. Everyone knows about Michelle Obama, I hope. She's definitely, I recommend the audiobook. It's like listening to her talk to you like having tea. So I definitely recommend, if you have the paperback, have the audiobook as well. I Am Malala by Malala Yousafzai, right? We've heard her. She's very famous, a very young inspiration pioneer as well. Another one, she's Korean, In Order to Live by Yeonmi Park. So this is an interesting one. I haven't read this book yet, so I'm definitely going to check it out so that we are fully aware of the diverse intersection of women that we are. Quote of the day. I hope everyone knows about Amanda Gorman, right? She definitely rocked it in the inauguration, and now she's, another awesome poet that's definitely growing prominence. There is always light. If only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. So that's just one of the things that she said. So I'm very humbled and proud that we have a young, amazing lady like her that's leading the way in poetry and enlightening us. Now, here are the questions. We'll get started right at it. The first question that I have: share a favorite quote from the book. Why did this quote stand out? So, anyone's welcome to share. Please unmute yourself and share. That's the first one that we have. Don't make me call you out. Lotus, you want to share?
I can share. So I listen to. I'm a big fan of audiobooks too. Just I'm a mom and I have a lot of things going on. So as I'm taking my children from place to place, I'm always like listening to a book. This was a really easy read. It was great to hear Kamala reading the book to me because it felt like girlfriend time.
Yes.
And I was surprised like how fast the book went. I was like, I want actually more. I was like, it's over already. But the one quote I had to like write in my journal that stood out to me was when she said, "We are a part of a larger story and we're responsible for how our chapter gets written." And that really stood out to me as just sort of like, as a woman of color I've always sort of worked in traditionally white institutions and senior leadership kind of roles. And I've thought of myself as kind of like a caretaker of the places where I've been. And it resonated with me as a professional. And it resonated with me as just like a citizen in this world and sort of on this journey of life. Is like, what is my chapter going to be? Because I'm responsible for this piece of it, of my piece of the story. So I did write that in my journal. I was like, that's some good little nugget from Kamala. So write that down.
Oh, she had a lot of good lessons listed in the end too. So
Oh, that last chapter was like a powerhouse, like a masterclass of wisdom. That whole last chapter.
I could not put enough stickies. I was folding almost like every other page. I'm like, I need to stop like selecting every other page.
Sure.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Anybody else want to share? All right. Julian, you want to share yours, your quote? Is that something that you like?
I'll share mine. I'll share mine.
All right, go ahead. Lisa?
Yes, I just got the book and just really started. So, but one thing that I liked about it, her mother was always encouraging her. In the first chapter, it says, "Don't do anything halfway." And she instilled them, if you're going to do it, put your whole heart in it. You know, don't just be doing it for a name. Make sure you have a cause and you stick with that cause.
There you go. So is that something that you can relate personally? Are you seeing a trend of what?
Well, yes, I can.
Yeah.
Yes, being an educator and trying to encourage students. Well, I'm a retired elementary teacher. And so I always try to encourage them that if you're going to do it, put your heart into it and make sure, that's what you want to do and don't be encouraged or influenced by other people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Agreed. I'll share mine's. One of the lessons in the end, she said, the words matter, right? The right keywords matter, and it's definitely more important today with all the misinformation that we're hearing, all the myths that we're hearing, and I'm sure some of you are familiar. There have been news media saying things about her, about the bail type, policy that she made. There's different things that she's been working throughout in the past that people don't have the full detail. But what I love about VP Kamala Harris is that she was able to eloquently wrap it, relate to you in a level that you can understand. She did not complicate the way she told us, or just like how she has this book, anyone can read it, right? But I value that she made it relatable. She was very uplifting and she elevated anyone she can. So I definitely love her statement that the words do matter, the right keywords matter. That's the impression you're going to leave behind. And you can't take it back once you say it, right? So we all know that experience. Anyone else want to share?
So yeah, I love how she continues to stress how it's so important for leaders to reach back, particularly women when we're in positions of power and leadership. How and she gave examples, and that was was one thing where not only did she talk about it, she provided various scenarios in which she instilled that in her life work. And like someone else said, that last chapter was packed with lots of stuff, lots of advice. She left us with a lot of material. But yeah, I think it's so critical, even more so for women. We want things to be fair and equal. And if we want things to be fair and equal, if that's what we really want, we have to. It is so critical to embrace that younger woman, that woman that's in a junior position, to reach back and make sure that she's successful and succeeding. And so, yeah, I love how she modeled that in her story.
There you go. And she did lead by example all the way through, just like her mom. Her mom's amazing. Awesome. Anyone else want to share? Oh, okay. Well, we'll try the next question. Number 2. What feelings did this book evoke for you? Anyone else want to try?
Hello, this is Leah.
Hey, Leah.
Hi. I didn't realize we were supposed to go over the book before we joined. I've been back-to-back meetings, but I will say in answer to this question and reflecting on what everybody has said before is that mentorship and guidance is so very important. I've benefited from having some wonderful mentors, and I find that all of a sudden I'm in this position where my students are coming to me. I'm a professor at Morgan State University, and my doctoral students come to me and says, well, now that you're my mentor, and I was like, wow, I guess so, huh? And so it's that we have to keep paying it forward and keep telling those around us they should do the same for those coming after them. So that's what I'm getting from this whole conversation.
Agreed. And she's definitely embodied that quite a bit. Her mom, I think, is one of her biggest mentors, right? And sponsors and advocates for her. I think because she had a very strong woman like her, and even her grandparents, actually, they were activists, I believe, right? From what I've read. So they were active in India, but they were very socially connected and advocates already when it comes to policy and what happens in the community. So she has history from family that, showed that mentorship from all sides. First, your mom, your parents, your friends, your loved ones, allies, sisters and brothers, right? All those people that help you be accountable for whatever goals you set. She embodies it, and she's done it eloquently by creating policies and helping create policies and opening up those conversations. And first of all, she just loved talking to people. She wanted to be in the front lines to actually get the data. I know she mentions it that you need to be there in front of the event. You need to be on site in the place to be able to see what's happening. So if there are issues that you're facing, you want to be in the place to see it happening. Anyone else want to share? What the feelings did this book evoke for you? That's the question that we're on for now. So if you've read the book or
To me, she's her and her mother are women of strength, to be raised by your mother. It reminds me of my mom raised six kids, 5 girls and 1 boy, and we didn't have a lot of male authority in our life. So my mom and my grandmother raised us, and to raise us. They raised us where even if you fail at something, you still get back up and succeed and try something else. And so, Vice President Harris is an inspiration to me because just being a woman, not just a woman of color, I admire her strength from the ridicule she took when she first ran for president. And then when she was chosen to run for vice president, she didn't fold. She stood strong and she accomplished that goal because she was on a mission, not just to put herself out front. She was out front for men, women, and children. And so that's why I really admire Vice President Harris.
Thank you for sharing that. It's awesome.
I was going to talk about the stories that she told in the book about her life as a prosecutor. Really stuck with me. As a person, she chose to work on advocating for people who were victims of like sex crimes and youth who've been sexually exploited. I just thought it was just such courageous work. And I have a good friend of mine who's a former prosecutor. And I called her after I finished the book. I said, I had no idea like that this is what your job was like. How do you process all the things that you see? And it made me wonder, what Vice President Harris has done to sort of care for herself, like her self-care, her mental health and all of that. Like
Mhm.
she didn't really talk about that as much in the book because
No.
she's such a person that sort of pours into other people. And I just thought, like, you've seen so many like horrific things in your work as a prosecutor. So I felt a tremendous sense of pride for like the dignity of the work that she's chosen to do in her life and how it's always been about a life of service.
Mhm.
And I just thought about the weight of the work, like how heavy that work must be.
It is. It's a heavy burden and almost thankless at times, right? And it was amazing to see that journey. I love seeing it. She's done mentoring. I believe she had created a program for people that are incarcerated too much, right? So backtrack, I believe, right,
Yeah.
where she
Yeah.
did like a partnership. So what was it? The percentage was like 10%. Only 10% of them that graduated were recurring. That's an amazing feat. From going from 100%, 90% did not continue and go back. That's amazing. And they didn't have to worry about being punished, but instead got rewarded. I love the journey that she has of helping the youth. She covers like so many topics, and I'm not gonna take the stage, so I definitely want every one of you to share some of those. She has a lot of good nuggets.
Yeah, I love how she modeled diversity in so many different ways, and she knew the American story, and it wasn't just from a Black woman's lens. And I liked how she talked a lot about being a Black woman and talked about, how her parents were involved in civil rights work. But
Yep.
she also talked about having Indian heritage and how, she incorporated that in her everyday life, and talked a lot about her Jewish husband. I also liked how she pretty much reinformed us about DACA. There have been so
Yep.
many issues that we've been dealing with over the last, few years, but I liked how she touched on so many issues that I feel that we've forgotten about.
Yep.
Immigrants, the fact that, these children were separated from their families, the trauma and everything that these mothers were probably going through because they had no idea where their kids were. And some of these kids were 8 years and younger, right? So I loved how she reminded us about who Americans are and these complex and diverse experiences that we're each are having as Americans.
Yeah, she touched the spectrum. I mean, she even touched the recession, right? When the housing foreclosure, I had no idea it was robocalls. So what they did was the banks were taking advantage of homeowners, right, in California, and she fought with it so that they wouldn't just settle for, I think, what, a few million instead of billions to get money back for the people. I mean, she's been in like all the different timelines of milestones, like even for LGBTQ, right? The marriage, right? For couples, same sex, right? And then I think she definitely touched on the health issues, the opioid, even she talked about how to address that. So she definitely has been throughout the ages, like Lotus said, a servant leader. She's definitely a lifelong servant, and we're very lucky to have her as a VP. I'm so proud of her, and I'm proud of everyone else following right after. So, anyone else want to share what the feelings they got from this book? Okay, we'll move on to the next one. So, number 3, what do you think the author's purpose was in writing this book? What ideas were they trying to get across?
It was a political book.
It was. I agree. It felt like a campaign. It was like the timing of it felt like it was a campaign book. Like, let me tell you how qualified I am.
Yeah.
But I still received it like for,
Mm-hmm.
like in appreciating her journey, but it did feel like a political stunt speech.
Yes, it was definitely strategic.
Yeah, I agree. It was but at the same time, it truly introduced us to Vice President Harris outside of what we learned about her in the media. because I didn't know anything about her until the judge. They were trying to put this particular judge where the lady said he raped her, and I can't remember her name, but she stood strong on that she didn't, Vice President Harris, she didn't want him to be a judge on the United States Supreme Court, because although it really wasn't proven that he raped a lady, it's just to know that he had that in his background, and Kamala stood strong on that, and that was the first time I ever saw her. And then when she was running for president, so I was interested in learning more about her than the negative that the media tried to put out about her. Well, they did put out about her. I just love her, and I don't even know her personally. And she has two daughters too, and I have two daughters, and just to be have that strength as a woman. And she just don't focus on being a Black woman. She addresses being a woman wholeheartedly in diversity, a diverse woman in almost every area. And law is kind of, it used to be a man's world, and she's been very successful in the industry of law. And so I just really admire her.
Yeah, she's amazing. Definitely. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else want to add? What the purpose of the book? It was definitely very specific, and it is very much timed. And it was what, 2016 she mentions it, right? And of all things, she got sworn in by, at that time, VP Joe Biden at that time, right? And then she was also part of the security, or the Homeland Security. I mean, the things that she was working on, the cases. She talks about the secrecy part, right? Describing the moment and the bipartisan effort in that work, especially during the Russian intervention, right, on the election. So she definitely shares a little bit of that impact, the stories of how switching was causing anxiety for all, especially when we all realized that we'd be living for this for 4 years. So she describes that moment, and we all can relate to that. So I feel that it was definitely purposeful, political. I can agree. Lotus and Juliana, you mentioned it, and I think everybody agrees it was very strategic. It was part of timing, and I should not be surprised that she went for BP. I wish she was the president, though. That's what my she's more than qualified to be one, overqualified if anything. So she should have been the president in my eyes. So I hope she continues to do what she does, and maybe we'll see her in the next 4 years. I don't know. I can just hope and wish here. What aspects of the author's story could you relate to the most? Anybody want to share on that one? All right. Abina, anyone has read the book? I'll share mine. I can easily share. I love her tenacity. She didn't give up. She's a fighter, right? She's very strategic in a good way. She knows everything that she's doing is impactful for the person that's looking up to her, and what she's leaving behind as a legacy. So I value that. And I know, Julian, we're partners on this. We're all sisters in here and brothers that are moving forward, and hopefully we're following the momentum. So I appreciate reading more about her, and I don't mind reading another book from her. Hopefully not so political this time, but yeah. Well, a little bit more on the fun side. I do like that she was called Kamala by her children. I like the bus, the Kamoji one, and I was like, I had no idea that was the name of the bus. she had the fun side, and the shoes, right? It made sense why. I'm glad that she had the support from everyone. Despite the hardships, she has an amazing support system. And if it wasn't for that, I don't know if she would have been our VP to begin with. So that's what I'm thinking. What do you think?
Yeah, it's she basically stated it's okay to be unapologetically ambitious. As
Mm-hmm.
it's okay.
Yep. No need to apologize. Just do it.
Mhm.
And Lotus, you didn't say anything because her name is a Lotus, right?
Oh, I know. So Lotus is the name of my business. My name is Courtney. It's
Courtney.
really long on the caption.
Yeah.
But she started the book off by saying, her name Kamala means lotus flower, which I love because I named my business Lotus Leadership Coaching because of the poignancy of the lotus flower, the fact that it grows, through the mud and the dirt and it becomes this beautiful thing. And my coaching is all about coaching women through sort of like the mud in their lives. Like there's beauty on the other side of it. We have to push through. So, I felt like a special connection to her because of, her name meaning lotus flower. But like for me, I felt like what I related to was this notion of it's okay to take up space, right? And she talked about, as women of color, it's important that we remember that sometimes we're put in spaces where we're the only person, but like that we are with each other in those spaces. And so, I feel buoyed by people like Kamala Harris and Shirley Chisholm and Oprah and others who have sort of broken down, Beyonce, broken down barriers
Mm-hmm.
and made it possible for us to just have more opportunity. And so it can be lonely when you're in spaces that were not designed for you. And I look at Kamala as someone who just sort of like crashed through the ceiling. So yeah, that was, the big thing for me was like, it's okay to take up space, Courtney, like take up space. Like, you know what, you're there, use your voice.
There you go.
Mhm.
And we cannot echo that 1,000, if not a million times. So thank you for saying it. There you go. All right. Anyone
Hey,
else want to share? Go ahead.
hi, this is Greg. I actually kind of what was speaking to me just now was the whole lending your voice concept. And one of the things that I loved about this book is that everything that she was fighting for was not necessarily anything that was relevant to her personally. The housing crisis, fighting for money, fighting to keep people from going back to jail, fighting for LGBTQ rights, anything that she's, been fighting for is not necessarily something that she's been a member of,
Mm-hmm.
but she saw the need and she lent her voice and her power and her position to represent those people and their voices and their concerns and fight for what was right for them. And that's something that's always, for me has been like, okay, this thing doesn't matter to me personally, but it matters to somebody else. And if it matters to them, then it needs to matter to me. And I want to lend my voice and lend whatever I can to help them achieve what it is that they're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Agreed. Well said.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. And that's what's amazing is that you're right. Even though she wasn't part of that, she was doing it for all. She served the entire constituents. It didn't matter what background you were from. And that's how it should be. We're there to serve. And I think that's what we're all doing here. So thank you for sharing that. You joining our book discussion is a form of serving and paying it forward, right? Getting awareness and sharing your experience and making sure that we're proud of all the things that we do. So thank you for that, Greg. Anyone else? All right. Well, we'll move on to the next question. We can always go back to the previous one. What surprised you after reading this book? I'll kick it off and then you can join in. Well, what surprised me was the timeline itself. So after reading and staying active, looking at the news and all the things that I was questioning were getting answered in this book. And I'm like, I should have read this book before the inauguration because all the different misconceptions were being targeted specifically for her was coming out, and that answered it, especially the bailing piece. I had no idea that what she was fighting for was ensuring that if you couldn't afford to bail yourself out, you shouldn't go bankrupt, right? Because it was disadvantage to those people that can't afford it. Somebody that's well off or already has privilege, they can get out quickly just because they have the money. But if there are people that are already homeless, they're already struggling, and having that bail amount of money that they were asking just to get out, a single mom, she can't go back to the house to take care of her young child, or a single parent, any man, even, how can they allow something like that to just a minor penalty, a minor offense would cost thousands of dollars and basically put them bankrupt for something small, worse off than they were when they started for something minor. So I appreciate all the things that she laid out. Um, I definitely was surprised with the intersectionality, right? She's definitely a very diversely experienced person. I mean, just because, her husband being Jew as well, participating in the different conversations, especially her mom, being a scientist. She describes her experience as a researcher, the things that she had to fight for, and even her divorce. So she is a child of divorce, a single mom. She's endured quite a bit, and she was also participating as a stepmom. And I love that they call her Momala. That's, instead of stepmom, they called her that. So it's a sweet thing. So that surprised me too, how that happened. Anything else you want to share as far as surprise?
I was surprised that she held up for so long and she stood her ground with the banks. And it could have been political suicide, right? It was a hairline risk, but she stood her ground. She didn't back down, and she ended up ultimately, I forgot how much money, but ultimately getting millions of dollars for the state of California.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was persistent and she didn't give up. And you're right, it was a political suicide. but she won. It's all that matters. Anyone else?
Okay. She got married so late, right? So that was another interesting.
I know. I didn't know that she was not married before.
Yeah, she got married later, and it wasn't someone that she wasn't a college sweetheart or someone she went to law school with or anything like that. She was introduced through a friend, and she ultimately got married.
I love that story where her friend's like, you're not saying no. Don't Google him. Don't overthink it. Just go on a date. I set you up. That's a friend right there. She was also, I think her name was Christine, I think. Something like that. And she just said, like, you're going to go on a date, whether you like it or not. It worked out pretty well. How about you, Courtney? You have anything that surprised you?
I think what left me, I was left wanting just more about her, the person. Like, it was satisfying to hear about her, like the politician, and sort of understanding her journey and things. It explained to me why I was so drawn to her as a candidate. Like, I was just drawn to her and very much in support of her candidacy. I thought that she was just a really brilliant person. I was like, she's so smart and she knows the issues, and she's Black Girl Magic. She's an AKA. I'm an AKA. I just was like, that's my girl. But reading her book, it just, like, my depth of respect for her hard work and her intellect and her clarity and all of that. I just wanted to know a little bit more about, like, her life. I want to hear more about the Sunday dinners and, like, that kind of stuff, like, really touched my heart, like hearing about her interactions with her family. And I just felt like it was I just want to know a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that she was cooking dinner, Sunday? Yeah. She made it a routine.
Mm-hmm.
So that was sweet to see. Actually, there were teary moments for me there. Some moments were very teary for me. I don't even remember now. It's so many.
Yeah.
Cool. Greg, you want to share something? I'm calling out people. Listen.
I'm good for right now. Thanks.
You're good for now? Mm-hmm. I'm trying to get you all to talk here. It can't be just a few of us here.
Good job.
All right. Well, we'll go to the next one. Which scene has stuck with you the most?
Oh, the scene where she took her mom to the Jewish, the nursing home. And, she was trying to get her some around the clock care. And I just had this visual of, like, her tiny little mom sitting on the bed with, like, her legs swinging. And she's like, okay, we can leave now. you know, and just sort of like Kamala looking so deflated. Like, I thought that we talked about this, and, you know, she ended up taking her back home, and, you know, she passed away not too long after that. That just like, the way she painted that picture, I just could see them there together in that room and that whole thing happening. It was a very touching scene.
Yeah, that was my other teary moment.
Yeah, it's weird that you pretty much nailed it, Courtney. All I could think of was her mother would never get to see who she would become, right?
Mhm.
Saw a lot of, you know, she witnessed a lot of different things, her successes and accomplishments, and that hurt it, you know. It hurt it, you know. And she loved her mother so much, you know. Yeah, it was definitely a moment where you realize how human her story was.
Mhm.
You felt for her.
Yeah, she called her mama.
Yeah.
My mama. It's so sweet. Again, I should have had tissue paper when I had it, when I was reading the book after folding every other page. But my favorite moment, or what stuck to me, that is one of them. It's kind of hard to compete, but I do like the sweet story between her and getting married. You know, that moment where she was just thrown in a date. She's like, "You are not debating this, my friend. You are," you know, especially when she was, I think she was speaking. She was doing a presentation, and then they were looking at him, and they said, what are they looking at?" And then somehow she got introduced him. So I like that moment. I like those subtle, sweet, normal moments, like you said, you know, Courtney. I was hoping there was something a little bit more normal besides the political side, just a little bit more depth. But I like the cute moments, the simple, you know, just being normal. It's just the people.
She felt relatable when because, you know, like many of us have mothers that we love and are close to. Like, it just felt like relatable that someone as accomplished as her just like loves her mama.
Yep.
You know, I felt that.
Yep. I like her funkiness, right? With that bus just got me. I was like, Kamoji. They have a thing for the names they were combining. I like that. They were very creative.
And her gym shoes. I forgot
Yeah.
what shoes she wears. She mentions that in
Converse. I like that she made it casual, even though she was business suited, right? And then the pearls that she wore. I mean, you can see it in her book, her pictures. She exudes all that energy. So we know we're pumped up when we see, you know, Kamala Harris. You don't mess with her. She if she told us something, we'll probably run and do what she says.
Yeah, she's a boss lady. I mean, like, it's
She
just
is.
like she's just a powerhouse woman. And as a mother of daughters, like, to see Kamala Harris ascend to that level of leadership, like, my daughters on inauguration day were just like glued to the television.
There you go.
Watching this happen. Like, and I was just like, wow, what this is going to do to their lives to see this moment. I was just so proud as a mom.
Yes. Definitely having role models that you can see that who look like you, you know. And then I think she also mentioned when she was a DA, they were making, I would say, judgments about listening to rap, right? And then she called him. I was like, well, I listen to rap too. You're making misconceptions about people being in that, you know, that they are bad people. Well, I listen to it too. So what about it? So I like that she always called it out. She never gave up on somehow inserting in there that that's not right. I got to speak up and do something. And she just kept going. And we should have like a template of how she does things so all of us can do it. So now we have her book. That's our template. Part 2, maybe. So we'll move to the next one. Are there lingering questions from the book you're still thinking about?
Maybelline, this is Sadia. I was just going to add something.
Yeah, go ahead.
That just stuck with me is, you know, when you fail, and let me just turn my video on. Can you all see me?
Yes,
Hello.
now we can. Yes, awesome.
When you fail at something, having a courage to go back in the same room, like she failed her test for her first bar exam, and then she went back and she practiced and she was back at the courthouse again. It takes courage to do that. Not many people have the courage.
Yeah.
That was like, oh wow, you got to have a lot of power in you to be able to go back to those same people and face them again. That, hey, guess what? I failed, but I got this. I'm going to come back stronger.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
love that attitude. And it's hard to find that attitude.
Yeah.
Agreed.
She didn't give up. That's
Yes.
that I love that she didn't.
Yeah,
She
she did
didn't
not.
give up. She just. But what's lingering to me. I'm looking forward to her next book and what she'll have to say. Not just being a woman, but as a person and her personal experiences as being in the White House and in government. And I think I really think a part two to this book is coming and will be more profound and empowering.
I agree. I only read the first chapter so far. I will actually listen to it. But I was like, all right, well, I need to continue listening to this. It's a very good book. It empowers you. It empowers you in many ways.
Yeah, she definitely keeps you energized to want to read the next page. I could not read fast enough. I had the paperback. Typically I do audiobook, but I was like, all right, keep going, don't stop. And I was even texting Julene when I was trying to finish, like, all right, I'm on page 90 now, about 1/3 now. She's laughing at me.
Yeah, because I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm listening to the audiobook.
Audios, hey, I love listening to audio, especially when you're driving. It's so nice and soothing.
So nice, yeah.
And I like listening to something that motivates me. So this was a good one.
Nothing like having a paperback or hardback. It's nothing like having a book.
Mhm.
But we're busy women, and so
hey, I'm sure most of us are working moms, and it's just hard. You're not just playing one role; you're playing many roles.
Nope. No. Yeah, I typically listen to audiobook while I'm running. And I know Julie knows that she even gave me a book. That's how much running I was doing. So that's how I was speeding through my reading, was listening like at least an hour on audiobooks, history, science, fiction, everything. But this one I actually read by paperback. I love it though. I might have to get the audio just so I can hear her talk.
I love when the author is the reader,
Yes.
like you said about Michelle Obama's book earlier. I mean,
oh my gosh, that was awesome. Book.
Unbelievable to have her read that book. Like I bought
Did you guys
the book. And
did you guys see the Netflix thing that she had? The movie, how the whole book was? Oh my God, it's so inspiring.
Amazing.
I was crying on that one too.
Yes, me too. You get goosebumps just by looking at it. It's like, oh my gosh, yes.
I was like, Michelle, you're gonna make me cry in and out of the White House. It doesn't matter where you're at.
And these ladies, they're real. You can connect with them, and I think that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, she has that presence.
And when you read those books, it's almost like the book is actually talking to you directly, and that is such an awesome feeling.
Yeah, I can't teleport to see her though. I'd love to see her face to face finally. Before
that's right. I'm sure I'll faint, but
well, Eva, you will enjoy the book. Eva said she haven't read it yet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're gonna love it. It's definitely I would say very enlightening, and I cannot wait for another book.
Obama's book was pretty good, and that's it.
Oh, I haven't read his book yet, but I want to.
So long. I'm listening to that too. I'm like, I got like 14 more hours on Audible to finish that.
And that's the first one. There's supposed to be a part 2.
I'm loving
it. Wow, really?
Like, I put it on Sunday when I'm like making Sunday dinner. I'll say, let me listen to Barack's book for a couple of hours and try to get through this book. It's so long.
Well, I think the longest one that I've seen, Hamilton, Alexander Hamilton, is like 35 hours. Wow. Benjamin Franklin is about 30 something hours that I listened to. I was like, can I just finish this thing? And the worst part with Benjamin Franklin, the more I heard about him, the more annoyed I was about him. He was just too much of a flirt. Really? Despite all the rest of the things, I mean, I was like, come on, can I just get to the end? You're too wordy. And he's supposed to be the first biography, right? I think is Benjamin Franklin. And then I'm reading George Washington and I'm like, what? 45 hours? Are you kidding me?
Oh my gosh.
That's the audiobook, 45 hours. So I've listened to Harriet Tubman. Thank God it wasn't 40 hours. That was like about 15 hours. So I finished that one. That was an amazing story. We got to talk about Harriet Tubman. Then the next topic. She's another, we need to talk about history of our amazing women out there. And she's one of those that we definitely need to, I mean, it was hard to find even books on her. It's not that many. right?
Yeah.
I think there's still myths about her. She was called what, the general or something like that, because she was a hardcore. I mean, she was successful in freeing so many slaves, and then she went to Canada and back, and she did it seasonally. And I'm like, wow, she's amazing.
Mhm.
But moving on, before I digress further, next topic or questions: how did your opinion of the book change as you read it? I think most of us just got affirmed more than changed, if anything, right?
Yeah, it was affirming, and it was just, it's always fun to hear like the background stories to real life events. And so like with the whole Brett Kavanaugh situation with the Supreme Court, like hearing, you know, her opinion and how she went about trying to prevent that from happening,
Mm-hmm.
really resonated, because I think a lot of us were sort of watching that with bated breath. And I just love hearing the backstory of current events. I mean, you
Yep.
know, I live in DC, I'm a news junkie and a political junkie, so I just sort of like ate all that up.
Yeah, especially when she mentioned, what was it, the confirmation from Mike Pompeo too, right? She asked specific
Yep.
questions.
Yep.
I didn't know how active she was on the different like key milestones, actually, key events, and she's been in all of them, which is, I think that's another amazing thing. The more I read, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how she's enduring it. I'm sure she'll have more great stories being VP, and I cannot wait to hear more of her lessons and how she's. I'm looking more for the path when she becomes a president. I really want her to just skip right to the rest and just become president. Just get to that point. Can we just cut 2 years and or a few years and just be president already? I cannot wait. Anyone else want to share? How did your opinion change, if at all?
Well, I definitely felt like in the beginning, I was like, oh, this is a political book, but my mind started to shift as I started to learn, like you stated, her participation in how a lot of legislation got passed, what relationship she had across the aisle, what mattered to her, like, okay, these are some, it really seemed like some of these things really matter to Kamala, right? Children matter to her, sexual harassment and sexual assault matter to her, women matter to her, being a Black woman matter to her, speaking up for against for social justice, being an advocate of social justice matter to her. And so, and that was the feeling I got as I moved along into the book. So yeah, I definitely felt like, and then I thought like, this is different because you can go on a politician's website or a particular candidate website and you can read about the different legislation that is important to them, but you heard it from her voice. And you heard it in such a way that you had all these background stories, and she did a lot of name dropping or associating.
Seriously.
Yeah. So so it was really good to hear it from that angle.
Well, except one that she was like previous or the administration, she wouldn't say it.
Yeah, she didn't.
Right?
Do you guys remember the moment when I was reading I only read the first chapter so far. So when I was reading it, it just kept on reminding me of the moment during the vice presidential debate when she was having with VP Pence. Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. You guys remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. When I was reading the first chapter, I feel like, oh my gosh, she's going to pause everybody. I'm speaking. Everybody listens to me. I love that.
Yeah. I love that she did. That she
Yes.
I have an opinion, and my opinion needs to be heard.
Uh-huh.
And hey, I've been in corporate America for a very long time now. I'm in my 30s. So, and there has been numerous times where, as being a woman, and especially a woman of minority and underrepresented minority, let me just rephrase myself. It's your voice gets suppressed,
Yep.
and people don't have any problem doing that. And yes, and pausing another person and letting them know, hey, I'm still speaking.
Mm-hmm.
It takes courage to do that.
As soon as you said that, I thought Maxine. It's like, let me take back my time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Let me take back my time. That's so true. Yeah,
I didn't know you can even do that until she said it.
that's
I had
so true.
no
Yeah.
idea that was something they could do, that you could take back your time.
And Maybelline just, demanding it.
Yeah.
It's so empowering that, hey, you can sit there in front of hundreds of people and actually demand your time back.
Mm-hmm.
It's so empowering and encouraging. It's like, hey,
Mhm.
we don't tend to do that in our normal day-to-day lives. And are we stopped? Are we paused? Yes, we are, numerous times. Numerous times.
All the time.
She
Yvette, you had something?
demanded, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
she demanded to be respected.
Yes.
She wanted the same respect that she was giving, and not downplay her because she's a woman. And I had an incident kind of similar last week, because sometimes when you work in an uh, atmosphere where you work with a lot of executives, sometimes they think because you're not in those at that level yet, your opinion and what you have to say doesn't matter.
Mhm.
And you have, sometimes you just have to go there and with much confidence and demand your respect. You will respect me just like I respect you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely right. So shine those voices. We have great examples, and you've done it here too in our call, right? And that's why I wanted to make sure I called upon all of you, because I think we all need to be heard. You know, you deserve that much, right?
Yeah, and I noticed with her, she wasn't intimidated. A lot
Yes.
of women in positions are intimidated by, like Vet said, those of them that are above them, and they feel like they have no place, no voice. And that's one strong thing that I liked about her. No matter what she did or where she was, she always let them know, I'm gonna stand my grounds, regardless of what you think or how it might go down. I'm still gonna be me. I'm still gonna keep my values, and you're gonna respect me. And I love that about her. The most important thing, still, not giving in to the system, not because you have a position. A lot of people just got positions. And then with her, it wasn't about the position. It was about what that position represented and what could she do for people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good point.
Well said. There we
You know,
go.
we don't, we, I feel like I commend a lot of that. I mean, I would say I owe a lot of that. I mean, she seemed like she had a lot of strong women around her. And I hate to use that word strong women, but it seemed like she had a lot of women around her that were used to that were very outspoken in her upbringing, her mother being one of them. And that makes a difference. It really makes a difference. When you a little girl or young woman have women in their lives that are like, you know what, this is your room too. And like Courtney says, you can take up space. And so I love that she kind of reiterated that in her book over and over. Because I mean, how many of us have been in rooms where it was male dominated, or there were very few people that look like us, and sometimes it can be intimidating.
Mhm.
Sometimes it can be intimidating. And particularly if these rooms are new to you.
Mhm.
So I do like that she portrayed that a great deal in her book. And like everyone said, I'm looking forward to, I'm looking for that story, when she's running for president or post presidency,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah. Awesome. Anything else anyone to add? That is our last question for tonight.
I call them, well, I guess I'll speak for myself as well since I'm in my 50s. You learn a lot, most of us, through life experiences. So I call Vice President Harris a well-seasoned woman. She's well-seasoned. And that means she's been through, she's probably had so many
Mm-hmm.
adversities that she probably didn't even mention in the book.
Mm-hmm.
But just looking at her, she stands and she walks and she talks with so much confidence, but I know there are some personal hurts just from this past election that probably made her break down, but probably behind closed doors because
yeah.
up front she stood firm and she always looked like she was just so confident in herself. So I call it well seasoned.
Makes sense to me. Well said. I mean, she's what, 53 maybe, right? Around that. I don't know if she mentioned her age. I believe she's early 50s. So, yes, I can agree. We don't see the entire story, the backstories completely, especially the personal, hurtful ones. So, I'm just glad she has a support system and we're all finally able to recognize her and we know her story. So, I'm looking forward to more. So, that is the last question. Appreciate you all giving us your time. Last thing, pause in everyday life, perform with intention until it becomes your practice. So I would say a call out, a call to action is please speak up, show your voice, take up the space, be brave, ask for allies, ask for your friends, brothers and sisters, right? And thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. And I don't know, Julian, do we want to ask, feedback? I know we have the next event is March 24th for all women equal pay day, but we also would like feedback of how the book club went. This is our first one, so hopefully it went well.
Yeah, we'll send out a feedback form. Please fill it out if you can.
Yes.
I promise it won't be long. But we would love to know how this went and get suggestions for other books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like Maybelline said, March 24th is our All Women Equal Pay Day event. If you're interested in attending, last night event was outstanding. So yeah, thank you guys for joining us. And this was a delightful discussion. And I would add on to suggestion is mentor and sponsor others.
Yes.
Reach back. They say the pay gap starts very early. When a little girl or a 14 to 16-year-old starts her first job, she can negotiate. And oftentimes we don't know that at that age that that we can advocate for ourselves, and so therefore the pay gap continually grows. So if there's a little girl in your life, which I know most of us in this room, it probably is, mentor and sponsor her and make sure that she knows that she could take up space in any room.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you very much for joining us.
Have a wonderful night. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
This was great. Thank you, guys.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Have a good night.
Good night. God bless.
God bless. Let me turn this off. Stop my. Oops. Stop.